What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben. I'm your host, and I'm the CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where I help restoration business owners get more sales by getting their internet marketing right. I'm super excited today, speaking of sales, because we have a very special guest that we're going to be introducing shortly. She is an internationally recognized speaker. She's an author of a couple really great books. She's a business coach, a sales and marketing strategist. I want you guys to welcome Ricelli Mordecai to the podcast. What's up, Ricelli? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm so excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you. I know you're always, talking to you a couple times. I know you're going to add a ton of value to our listeners out there, our tens of listeners that might be tuning in, or if you're on YouTube or when we share this from Ironclad Restoration Marketing. So we really appreciate your time. I know you're just getting back into the States. You were just traveling into Scotland. Saw some pictures online that looked really cool. How was the trip?
It was amazing. I had an opportunity to go over there to work with a restoration company, a small restoration company, which was a perfect excuse to just disconnect from the US a little bit. But a beautiful place. Beautiful. And I got you business expense, all of that. So that was really good too.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So a Scottish restoration company. Well, I don't blame you for, kind of fitting in a little vacation in there with the work. You got to, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, I guess. So we'll dive into it. For those of you guys that are out there that don't know, like I mentioned before, Ricelli is the author of two really great books. One is if you're in the Restoration Rebels group or anything, I'm sure you've seen it. She actually did a little competition for the cover to kind of see which the cover she would go with, called What's Your Fuel? And then she has another one about a personality assessment system called What Dog Am I? But for those of you guys that don't know her, if you're living under a rock, Ricelli, give me a little bit about your background, specifically about you, how long you've been working in the restoration industry, and then, how did you even get involved in the restoration industry in the first place?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Brazil, came to the States after graduated college, and I've always been in sales. I was introduced to the concept of buying something for one price and selling it for greater and making money. And I started that with my first allowance when I was 10 years old. I talk all about that on my first book. But I've always been fascinated by the idea of marketing myself and attracting the kind of clients that would allow me to succeed. On my first business, I was selling pottery, and my clients were my grandmother and her sisters. They had money and they thought it was really cute for a 10-year-old to be selling something. So there's definitely something about understanding your marketplace. Opened my first original official business when I was 17 years old. I was in direct sales, worked in direct sales for a number of years, got to train stadiums with over 5,000 people at the age of 19.
Wow.
And it was just something that was in me. And I always liked to train and help people to do better. Fast forward many years later, I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I applied for a position as a marketing manager for a textile a cleaning company. I didn't know that company was part of this industry. I didn't even know this industry started. But I remember, and it's funny because they hired me because of my education in fashion and because I could tell a real Louis Vuitton from a fake Louis Vuitton. So that's kind of how I got started. But I remember my very first day in the industry, sometime maybe June 20th, 2006, I visited with a restoration company, and this guy, Dave Osborne, he said to me, "I hope you like this industry because once you get in, you'll never leave." And I remember thinking, this guy's crazy. He doesn't know me. I'll be a huge name in the fashion industry. And 16 years later, here I am. Great opportunities came from this. I was the director of sales training for a franchisor of the restoration industry for 4 years or so, in charge of 400 offices, creating sales systems for them. And it was really good because I had just written my first book, and I got to train people on my own concept so that when I left and became my own consultant, everything that I practiced with all those 400 offices is what I used to teach companies that are not associated with a big franchise name, that don't have that kind of support a lot of times, and even people that are associated with a franchise name but want more of a hands-on involvement, because we all know that franchisors have rules that regulate the amount of involvement that they can have with franchisees. Those are people that hire me to act as their VP of business development, to help them to grow sales, to become a sales-driven organization, and have a cohesive message. And that's me.
Wow, that's really cool. So you were you were a fashionista. You turned into the Beyonce of speaking roles, and then I mean, you said stadiums. You did stadium tours. That's pretty cool. And then you ended up in the restoration industry. And I guess the gentleman that told you that you would never leave was right, because now here you are. Some years later, and you've actually got a pretty good foothold in the industry. I want to back up a second. You said something about that kind of resonated with me a little bit, and this is going to be off topic completely. Oh, it's on topic for whatever. So we do what we want. We do what we want here. You mentioned that, these franchisees are kind of held to these certain constraints, and that's also a problem we see. Like when we're going to be going and providing digital marketing services with my agency to franchisees, and a lot of time the franchisor is limiting, right? So we know that you need X, Y, and Z to get those leads driving into your business, to keep your business growing and grow that franchise. And oftentimes they are not. How have you been able to kind of circumvent those, if you have been able to circumvent that with those 400 locations?
Well, let's take a step back for a second, because there are laws that the franchise industry has in place that prevent franchisor representatives from having involvement on the day-to-day operations of a franchisee. So a lot of times when people would say, should I hire person A or person B? I couldn't tell them. Or should I make this decision or that decision? I couldn't tell them. And it wasn't because I didn't know or because I was unwilling to help. It's because there were laws that prevented me from really telling them, from being a consultant and telling them what I wanted to tell. And I wanted to take this step back and share that with people, because a lot of people that will be hearing your podcast might be involved with a franchise system, and they might be thinking, well, why should I pay an outside consultant like Ben or Ricelli to do what I already pay royalties for my franchisor to do? They will not be able to do it.
Sure.
That is just a fact. The other thing that I think it's very important for people within the franchise system to understand is that you need to be very clear of why you chose a franchise system. Was it because of the leads? Was it because of the brand? And whatever it is that you signed up for, you should be getting your value for that which you paid the franchise fee to join. But understand too that it is your job as the owner of a restoration company. I don't care if it's an ABC mom and pop local restoration company or a big thing. Your marketplace is going to see you very differently than the marketplace of somebody that might be in the same brand. And it's all up to you.
Yeah.
You need to drive those leads for yourself. And you need to understand too what a balanced lead source is, so that you understand what you should expect from your digital strategist, what you should expect from your brand, what should you expect from a third-party administrator if you want to go that route, what you expect from your local marketplace, and have a clear plan for producing those leads. And a lot of people just don't, because they don't even know what a healthy source of leads should be.
Right. Yeah. And, to even expand on that a little bit, you nailed it. It's doing your homework, right? Not only understanding, so we'll look at it, the micro is looking at your business model in general and I can only speak towards the marketing aspect of it and getting that inbound lead flow to expand and increase over time. But it's doing your homework, understanding what success looks like, what it needs to look like, how to find that healthy balance between referral partners, what the franchisor is actually going to be helping you feed through their internal marketing, and then what you need to be doing as far as spending the money. But at the end of the day, you need to do your homework, right? You don't jump in. You shouldn't. And a lot of people do. I've been guilty of jumping in. I'm a head first kind of guy. I always jump right in, and then I kind of learn my lessons after the dust settles. But if you had to give advice to somebody based off your experience who was looking to maybe choose to join a franchise, what are a couple things that they should look out for in terms of marketing and growth? What are a couple things that they should, we know they need to do the homework, but what are like 2 bullet point bold things that somebody should look for when they're choosing a franchisor? Because I know there's got to be some really good ones, and there's got to be some ones that are maybe not as great, and they're just based on volume as far as getting their locations expanded.
Well, again, for me is, had I known then what I know now, right? I think that is the question. Sure. I've had conversations with many people that they should have not joined. Right? One example was a guy that had a local restoration business and was getting all his leads from plumbers. It was costing him 22 cents on the dollar to produce those leads, but he was getting a steady flow of income, making close to 800,000 a year, which was a good living for what he wanted to create with his company. And then
Sure.
paying a franchise fee to join a system without asking how many leads will I be expecting from by joining you. What are some of the things that what does your brand represent in my marketplace? I think that should be one thing that you should research right away. How do people view that particular brand in my marketplace?
Yeah.
And understanding relationships with carriers. A lot of times people join a franchise system because they want leads from carriers. So do your homework, find out how much will be coming for you from them, to you from them. Sorry, I get overly excited when I'm talking about this, and my grammar in English suffers. But what I'm saying is that do your homework to find out how the brand is viewed in your area, the amount of leads that you should be expecting, and the type of hands-on support that you're going to be getting. And you should weigh that against that which you already know about your business to find out whether or not you should be paying that, I don't know, 100,000 to 150,000, whatever it is, plus the royalty fee to that company, versus hiring outsources that can create a brand that is yours within your marketplace for less money and for more results.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody that's listening here is boils down to having a plan, and educating yourself on what that plan is going to look like and how the success is going to look. You touched on a couple things as far as understanding what the responsibilities of the franchisor was going to be as far as sending inbound leads. And we'll back up to branding. Branding's a big part of it. You have to look, and you got to remember you're going to be wearing that badge on your shirt from now on. So you need to make sure that any of the brand recognition that you are going to be, attaching yourself to is going to align with not only your company's goals, but your sales goals and how much growth you want to experience with the company. And then it sounds like, doing your homework on what you can do to supplement what the franchisor is doing is square one. And again, like most things in life, it's educating yourself, being consistent, and understanding what the success looks like. Because I'm sure that you deal with this a lot, is people have very mismanaged expectations, right? So if your expectations are mismanaged, nobody's ever going to make you happy, including yourself. So no, that's really good to know, because we do see from the digital side, franchisees struggle sometimes because they have no corporate control, so we know that in order to get this organic traffic, X, Y, and Z has to happen on somebody's website, right? And they don't have access to their own landing page, right? So they're really getting some watered down type of marketing. And had they known that before, at least they could have signed off an understanding like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this, but they have enough supplementing that as far as inbound leads go to where this makes sense. But I find a lot of times they just kind of look like deer in headlights. They go through the gamut, checking the box, and they want to run some pay-per-click. And it's always not in their best benefit. So we do see some guys struggling with just understanding why and what, even though that they really have no control with anything. So that was really cool. Thank you for that. So talking about making mistakes.
Okay.
So you do this all the time. You are talking to tons of restoration companies. You're dealing with business owners everywhere from the mom and pop guys to major franchises. I'm sure there's some commonalities with mistakes they're making, and that's what we really want to get out of today. We want to identify and then present some solutions to hopefully provide some value here, outside of all the value you've already brought us and that you do with your book. So what are some common mistakes that you see outside of what we've already talked about that everybody's just making, like the common ones? Because I could go all day about it.
All right, so let's talk about some. And I will start with saying expectations that exceed reality because of lack of knowledge, right? That is the basic one, but what does that actually mean? You hire a business development person because you want to create traffic in your local area. You want to expand the brand with insurance agents, property managers, assisted living facilities, fire department, first responders, and all of that. But you don't understand the metrics that will take for you to produce that result. And I will share the metrics right now because I'm so passionate about this that I think people should be educated on.
By the way, before you start, if you guys are just listening in your trucks, go check out the YouTube Restoration Rundown. You'll be able to watch a video and watch our pretty faces on here talking to you while she shares these metrics, so you can do some homework and do some rewinding. You can even make this play like at half speed in case I talk too fast if you want. So just a caveat to that. If you think there's value, check out the YouTube page, and then Ricelli's gonna also have this to share as well. So if you guys, anything that touches any of you guys out there, some issues you're seeing, we're going to give you some solutions today. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it's the Italian within us, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right. So the idea is this: for every 3 accounts that you manage a relationship with, and by managing a relationship, I say you're visiting with them face to face, interacting with them with a clear purpose for that visit every 4 weeks. For every 3, you're going to get 1 lead on your first year. So let me create even better numbers. For every 300 accounts, we hire somebody that's going to be in and out of their car 80 times a week, building a relationship locally. So 320 accounts. That's going to produce you 106 leads on your first year. Mm-hmm. Those numbers are not going to hit until the 4th round of visits.
Yeah.
And it's 6 to 8 leads per month. Then you're going to have to ask yourself, what is my current conversion from leads to signed jobs? And that's when I start to lose friends, and people are like, oh, if I have to do all that work, I don't want to do it. And I'm like,
yep,
fine, hire a digital strategist like Ben, sign up with some TPAs, and then I have some other programs that can help you double dip on those digital leads and TPAs. But locally, it takes time. It takes 3 to 4 rounds of visits. Mm-hmm. It takes numbers. It's similar to wanting to grow a crop.
Yes.
But opening a package of seeds and say, oh, I like this 3. I'm only going to plant this 3, but not this.
Yes. Now, it's funny that you use the garden reference, because I use it all the time, and I can, relate this to search engine optimization, right? We know that it takes time. We talk about SEO being a garden. We know we need tomatoes, we know we need those leads, and we're going to plant a garden to be able to grow those, but we need to go to the grocery store because we need to eat while the garden is growing, right? So it's the same thing. We talk about, so what we're talking about is volume, right? So you need X amount of leads to hit a certain number of revenue at the end of the year, and you need to hit the streets, and there's a lot of different touch points that you need to make, but you need to understand these numbers. And this is really cool, because understanding what your conversion rates are, understanding what your KPIs are going to be is going to kind of backwards math you into how many touch points you need to make, right? So then you group your digital leads, you group your referral leads, you group everything into a bucket, and then figure out your conversion rates. And a lot of times people don't ever understand any one of those areas. They just blanket and say, we need to get more leads. We need to grow our business. I want to make $5 million a year. But then, like you said, hey, it's going to take, talking to 500 or 600 people. It's like in the sales industry, cold calling. You're cold calling people. You got to hit 1,000 people before you get 20 closed deals sometimes, right? And you're going to hear a lot of no's, and you're going to hear, but it's building that authority, and it's building that brand recognition, and it's building this inbound lead flow system that's going to let you reverse engineer what your numbers are to make sure that you're hitting those sales goals. So that is a huge struggle, even on a digital marketing side, that we see with people, is that they just have no idea about the work that's involved. They see the goal, and that's all they see. They're just looking over all the work that they need to do, staring at the scoreboard the entire time.
Yeah, but they don't even do the math. That's my
right.
thing. You want to produce $1 million. Fantastic. Divide that by your average job size. That's the thing you have to do. So
there you go.
How many jobs you need. Then factor in your loss ratio, meaning, how many jobs you're losing through your conversion. And use the math at least for the local market to find out what needs to be done, right? And then you need to have a sales training like my Sales Masters program, where you teach people to start every conversation with a clear objective, but working a trajectory that will nudge behavior in order to keep every conversation with a clear agreement. And then people will say to me, so you want me to hire a donut dropper? And I'm like, 20 times a day, I don't think you can afford 20 boxes of donuts. So it's not even about that. It's about adding value, becoming a subject matter expert, but understanding that in order to grow a crop, you cannot just select a few seeds and overwater them to speed up the process. It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you need to, it's volume is the name of the game across the board. So that's a huge one. I mean, that can go in a million different ways. And I do see from my end, speaking in our terms, that people struggle with that a lot. Anything else you see like quite a bit that pops up besides mismanaged expectations?
That's a big thing. And it also goes along with hiring people without clear key performance indicators.
Sure. Yes.
Mistake. I remember Judge Judy saying, "Do never try to teach a pig how to sing. It frustrates the pig and it doesn't work." And I see the same mistake being made with hiring a business development marketing manager, however you want to call it, without knowing numbers, without knowing what can be expected. You frustrate that person leaves, or you push that person out because you're expecting something that you didn't give enough time or resources or plan of action in order to have it mature and produce the crop. That is the second mistake. So whenever you're hiring people, have those KPIs established. And if you don't know what they should be, the philosophy is find somebody who has what you want and copy their plan or hire them to personalize a plan for you. That's another big mistake. And the third mistake is not understanding that you have to have a balanced business from local lead sources, digital lead sources, and maybe, a 25% of a third party administrator, or something that can start filling up your funnel so that you get exposed to insurance adjusters, so that you can find out what happens with them and whether or not they can send jobs to you and insurance agents, and just having more purposeful conversations.
Yeah, those are great. And it boils down to, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, before you hire somebody, I've been guilty of this. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've owned multiple businesses. I've had, the people that kind of don't like me the most are the people that I, set up for failure right off the bat, right? You're not setting them up for success because people typically don't have the proper systems and processes in place before they do it, right? They're the box checker. Hey, I need this. I need X. They might skim one of your books, or they skim one of your sales trainings and say, okay, I got it. And then they go out and they hire somebody, and they're really setting them up for failure because they have no clear process. They have no clear KPIs. For those of you that don't know KPIs, key performance indicator, how are you going to judge whether they're doing a good job or not, right? Same thing with your marketing company. If you have no idea how SEO works and you have no idea what the landscape of pay-per-click is right now, which, by the way, is not great, you're not going to really be able to judge whether or not they're doing a good job. And it really boils down to the data, right? And knowing what to analyze, knowing what to look for. And that's where people like you come into play that are so versed. You've been through the ringer. You've seen every little issue that's happened one way or the other. And you're able to kind of undo all that mess and show them in real terms, this is what it needs to look like. This is what you need to look for based off what you told me and your goals are. So it really does boil down to having the proper systems in place. So how do you overcome it? So what would you do if I was up to you, coming to you and I was making the 3 top mistakes you just, made? What kind of is the first step, these guys that this may resonate with a lot of people out there? And what would you say, like a quick, maybe something quick to help turn things around? Probably don't give all the secrets, right? I just want to hear like a little bit, right?
I love the secrets, and I think they're so much fun to share. I think that people have unrealistic expectations. Like, let's just talk about how the nature of the industry is right now, and everybody talking crap about TPAs. And I tell everybody, I saw one of my clients, their first year in business, and I'm not trying to convert anybody to TPAs. I know the challenges of working with insurance companies, but I just wanted people to think about this for 1 second. This client of mine, on their first year, they did $900 and something thousand. 90% of their work came from TPAs and program work from their franchisor, right? And through a system that I will call it double dipping, and I'll explain it here in a second what that means. Through a system of double dipping, 8 years later, they closed their year with over $35 million.
Wow.
And 75% of their business came from direct relationships.
Wow.
What did they do? They used those TPAs, they used digital leads, and plugged them into a system that allowed them to capture information on the adjuster and create a plan for conversing with them, information on the insurance agent, information on the property manager, and then have a structured strategy, which is what I teach, of how to go to those people and say, hey, by the way, we're working on the Mrs. Johnson Water job. We got it from the carrier. When is a good time for me to sit down with you and review some of the things about what's going on with your client and see how we can continue to help each other? And through those valued conversations, which are outside of those crazy numbers that I told you about being in and out of your car 80 times a week, having a conversation that allows you to identify needs, concerns, and wants, and create a plan of action to add value. So let's understand how that actually works. Here's the data in the marketplace right now. Insurance adjusters are adjusting about 50 jobs per month. Half of those comes to them with a company with a restoration company pre-assigned to them. The others have to adjust. Okay, awesome. So they are left. The data shows that they are left with about 5 to 6 jobs every month that they can choose whoever they want for the job, whoever they want. I confirmed that with a friend of mine who's a vendor manager for AAA. Whoever they want for the job. Okay. So why would they go about choosing you versus the other guys? Right? It's based on the value that you produce.
Sure.
Okay. Are you the kind of company that when people call you, you can handle everything? Or are you calling your adjuster every 5 minutes and adding to their load? Okay. That's one. Let's talk about agents. For every 100 property policy holders that they have, 5 will have a loss, will have a property loss per year. What is the process? So first of all, how many? What is their 100 for how many 5 will they have? You need to understand that. You have to have that clear conversation. Also, what is their current process for handling a property claim? Are they kind of agent that send everything through 1-800 and forget about it? Mm-hmm. Or are they type of agent that understand that in order to keep clients away from, hate to say brands, but the online brands that don't have agents, that they say, call me, no matter what's the, whatever the time of the day or the night, I want to be your first point of contact because I want to add value to you. Those are the conversations you need to have. And then you're going to understand what you're going to be getting from them. Plumbers, do you understand their current process? Do you create partnerships that says, any water damage that's produced by you, I will cover, with the understanding that you're going to be producing all of this in jobs and we're going to be working together. Property managers, have you produced vendor in place agreements that will allow them to understand that you can put them on top of your triage process because they, you'll be ready for them when skies are gray, but they are going to think of you when skies are blue. What are you doing to add value, right? So those are some of the things that can produce work right away.
Yeah, that's great. And you have to, guys, if you're listening, and ladies, if you're listening, you have to understand that even when we talk about this a lot, is looking at things through the eyes of the person that you want to be eliciting some sort of response from, right? And until you understand who that person is and what motivates them, you're just pissing in the wind, for lack of better terms. You have to, that's really powerful. That's very valuable information that you just shared there. I want to talk about, and maybe go back to the guy or lady that's just starting out, right? How, obviously they're already pinching pennies. They're really trying to get going. They have these goals in mind. They're doing things the right way. They're getting set up. They're building relationships. What are a couple things you could share with the newbies out there that are just getting going, that might resonate with them outside, and listen, all the stuff that Ricelli just shared is huge. You need to understand who you're talking to. You need to make yourself, you're not dropping donuts off, 80 boxes of donuts off, but identify your top 10 people that you want to work with. Identify the top 10 people in your local area and just really, show them why, show them what your unique selling proposition is, show them how great your paperwork is, how great your onboard, you get some reviews, get things showing to show them that you're the best choice. But what about the guys that are just starting out? I know you mentioned hiring, business development, and you're doing things like that, which definitely, might be that's the gold standard. But what about, that's something that might be applicable to the guys that are just getting going?
That is a tough one because I saw a lot of people that got going and I was responsible. I also acted as their VP of Biz Dev for the first year when they joined a franchisee. A lot of people don't understand it takes time. So when I say what would be your fastest solution, I would say a digital strategist like Ben, because getting leads, I have heard of people getting 80% of their leads from digital sources.
Yeah.
Right. And it all, there are several factors to that. Ben is the expert on that. I've just worked along digital strategists before, but that is a fast way of getting business. The second one, again, hate to say it, TPAs, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you get approved,
we're getting controversial now.
No, but
that's okay. But it's real, guys. Like this.
I don't lie. I don't sugarcoat things. The idea is if you can get in with them, you're going to be paying a percentage, yes, to produce a lead that is almost 100% guaranteed that you're going to sign, right? And what that lead will mean to you also depends on the amount of business that you can do. Are you a company that your average job size is $2,500, or are you a company that your average job size is $25,000 because you do board up, tarping, dry out, content and structure cleaning, repairs, and recon? And in content, you do hard, soft, and electronics. That all depends, right?
Mhm.
And starting takes discipline, because if you don't, unless you're starting because of a natural disaster in your area, which
Yeah.
is costing you $1 million just on your first year because people need the help, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, because with a brand or without a brand, without a steady flow of income of leads, how
Mhm.
can you find jobs when you don't have leads? You need a lead funnel, whatever
Right.
that's going to be.
Yeah, it's funny that, there's just so many parallels between that and, just the digital strategy that you have. Look, TPA doesn't have to be the end all, is what you're saying. I mean, but it's a means to an end. Sometimes, guys or ladies and people that own these companies, they'll do it until they don't have to do it anymore. We see a lot of new clients that we get in. They're looking for a little bit more of an stringent digital strategy. That's kind of where they're at. They've built their they built their foundation on TPA, and they're just over it. They're over answering those calls and dealing with the pricing and dealing with all that stuff. And they want to bring in another look. And we always preach that, right? Taking an omni-channel approach. And it's just like pay-per-click versus SEO, right? Obviously, pay-per-click's going to get you those groceries and get you those leads right now. And if they're done right with the right company, they're going to produce and they're going to convert a little higher. Whereas SEO is going to take, anywhere from 3 months to a year, depending on your area, to bear fruit. But at some point, you can, if you choose, go away with the pay-per-click a little bit. And because your organic traffic is bearing that fruit and your garden is growing and you're getting those tomatoes in and your Google business profile is killing it. And then let's say a natural disaster happens, you can turn on the pay-per-click again, right? And it's the same thing with the TPA. So it's a means to an end. And what I guess we're getting at with the guys that and girls that are just starting out within the industry, a lot of times it's somebody that's working for somebody else and they're trying to get their own van and get going. There is no straight answer, right? It's learning yourself, beating the streets, getting a digital strategy, understanding the basics, and don't get caught up with the shiny new object syndrome, right? There is a black and white. I wrote it in the book, my book that I have on Amazon that talks about, if you're just starting out, read the book. It talks about every little thing you need to do, including choosing your keywords to do this stuff yourself, or at least be educated enough not to get taken advantage of, because just starting out, every dollar counts. So you don't want to be that person that's not consistent, that's bouncing around from agency to agency. They concentrate on the TPA, or they're spinning, you liken it to spinning plates, right? You can only do so many unless you're a professional. There's guys out there that are really good at it. But at some point, some of those plates are going to wobble. You did mention guys, people that start out and they're in a storm or a natural disaster kind of situation. And that's a really good point, because that's going to end soon, right? There's only so many projects that you're going to do. So if you built your entire business's foundation on a hurricane that hit an area, which probably going to make a lot of money if you do it right, what are you doing? What's next?
Well, I guess that the question is, how do you actually do it right? People think that doing it right is signing as many jobs as they can
Yes.
and going
Yes.
to each one of them. And for me, that's doing it wrong. Because if you don't have a good CRM that allows you to capture all uh, uh, the participants on that job and create a sales strategy for talking to those people and making sure that you use that job as a let me explain this a bit better. Who are you most likely to accept a friend request on Facebook from? Somebody who is from the other side of the world and says that they are a prince, or somebody who has a friend in common with you? And the
Right.
answer is somebody that has a friend in common with you. So having documenting every job that comes from a disaster. For example, I had a conversation with a client. I said, okay, you started with the disaster in Texas with the freeze. How many insurance agents information did you capture from every job? Oh, we didn't care about that. I'm like, why not? Well, you're so busy. I said, how many jobs did you do? Oh, X amount of, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, those are the opportunities that you missed out of having people that will be friends of a friend on Facebook, if you will,
Yes.
that you have
Yes.
purpose for talking to. But people don't know, because they don't have somebody like me with these years of experience to understand that those connections are so important. Because yes, that hurricane is gonna, that season of those jobs is gonna go away. But what you do with those relationships won't, because it will fall back into the data and the opportunities that they each have, which leads to one of the things that we mentioned a while back here, the motivation, right? My mentor used to say that what you lack in skills, you make up in numbers. When
Yes.
numbers are scary, increase your skill set. And I believe that everybody has what I call an emotional fuel, and that drives each decision. For Ben and I is give us the punchline. If we laugh, then tell us the joke. For some other people is no, give all the details on the joke and then they are going to embrace the laugh at the end. Do you understand that about people? Do you know how to profile people, understand their personality type, and speak in a way that will encourage behavior in the direction that you want to go? Most people don't.
Mm-mm.
I teach that, right? Because that will be the difference between having to visit with somebody 4 times to get to a yes, or visiting with them 1 time with a plan of action that you follow up with in 2 weeks, and then getting your first job, and that job being an opportunity with a big property management company with 10, 20 apartment complexes in your area,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, and everybody out there, understand there's a million different ways to achieve that, right? You're the pre-warming process of having these relationships. And one way that you can do it, and if you're somebody that's not really comfortable with certain aspects, there's a lot of different ways to handle this. So, one thing I talk about in my book is utilize video, right? You are an expert in what you do. Okay. And one way you can build authority is provide value. Okay. So you can answer questions. You can go on podcasts. There's so many people out there consuming content. And if you could show your USP via maybe alternative methods, which is easy to pull your phone out and record yourself making a video about X, Y, or Z, you can build authority that way. Right. So there's a million different ways to do it, but you have to do it. There is no magic pill. There's no way around any of this stuff. It does take boots on the ground, hard work, and more importantly, consistency. It's like anything you want to do in life. You got to have a goal. You have to have the systems in place to hit that goal, and you're going to get there eventually as long as your processes are good and you're constantly working on that. So that was awesome. Now let's go into sales. Directly sit with sales. So when it comes to, we'll talk about conversions. Hold on, I dropped my pen. I'm taking notes like feverishly here. Sorry. All right. So when it comes to the sales process, I know that's a big part of what you do is helping, people. Everybody's in a different situation, right? Everybody's going to be unique, which is, I think, is a really cool part about what you do. You get to kind of make moves on the go. It sharpens your skills from sales perspective. Can you offer, I guess, I don't want to talk about mistakes or problems because we know what the problems are. You're not converting, right? You need more sales. What are some tips you can offer the listeners out there for when it comes to sales, converting those sales, outside of what I always talk about, like just, hey, answer your phone, check messages, things like that. But from your end, what can you offer as far as some value, as far as some sales tips that restoration contractors could utilize?
Training your team. I think that the best thing is to understand that in order to be successful in sales, your whole team has to have a sales mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sales for me is every conversation that you have with a prospect where you start with an objective and you want to drive some type of results. That is my definition of sales. Sometimes your prospect is your 13-year-old son that refuses to clean up his room or do his homework. And you're going to be using that same strategy with an adult insurance agent that has 5 water jobs that can send to you every month, right? It's the same strategy. So what is your objective? Believe it or not, a lot of times people are so afraid of not knowing what to say that they refuse to ask the questions that are going to lead them to understand where their prospects are coming from.
Sure.
And that is something that I teach a lot when I do my sales masters program. We spend 4 hours just in teaching people how to read personality types, understand each individual's emotional fuel, and 4 hours into creating a plan. We go through a 5-step process that ensures that every conversation that you have following that program, you will leave with a tangible agreement 100% of the time, right? Parenthesis here, sometimes we agree to disagree and we part ways, but that's still clear agreement.
But that's better for you usually in the long run because it's typically not going to be a good fit. And if you're really trying to pound that, square peg into a round hole, you're most of the time, and everybody out there could probably resonate with this, it doesn't turn out well in your favor. It's happened to me plenty of times.
Absolutely. So you need to teach your team that. You needed to understand what you need to do in order to get the willingness of your prospect.
Sure.
Right? In order to be able to get that, you need to speak their emotional language. You need that process of communication. But as an owner, you also need to understand, especially in our industry, that sometimes your biggest customers are your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, again, listen, everybody, we boil this down even more simple than Ricelli mentioned. Knowing your why is a big part of our culture here, right? If you're getting out of bed every morning and let's say your goal is to lose weight, like why, right? If you don't really have a strong will and a why, you're probably not going to follow through and do it. So you need to understand this is business, marketing, everything 101, right? Understanding your why. Is it your family? You want to provide for them. You want to, buy a bunch of nice cars. You might not have a family. You want to buy a Ferrari, right? But you have to understand your why. And that's really what's going to motivate that fuel and keep, it's not an easy road. There's a lot of ups and there's a lot more downs most of the time. But if you're consistent, you understand your why, and your team understands their why, and we understand our expectations and we understand what the goals are going to be, you're going to have a much more cohesive environment. Those lows are going to be a little bit less low over time, and you're just going to uptick towards the top. So that
Yeah.
was huge. That was really good. I love this because, it gets to sharpen. I don't do a lot of sales. We do a lot of value here. And it's really nice to hear that the parallels still exist, and a lot of this stuff is really basic stuff. So that's really cool. Thank you for the tips. Hopefully everybody got that. A couple things I want to go in because we talking about your why. You wrote a book, your new book. I like to think that I helped choose what the cover art was going to be, even though it was before I ever knew you. I thought that was really cool that you put it out there for everybody to take a look at. Great promotion, by the way. It's called What's Your Fuel? Can you spend a couple minutes talking about that book, why you wrote that book, and maybe what people can expect and maybe how to get it?
Awesome. Okay, so let's start with this. Your what gets you started. Your why increases your chances of achieving it. Right?
Ooh.
Going along with what you're saying. The what gets you started. What do I want? To lose 5 pounds. Why do I want it? Because I'm gonna go to my high school reunion. I was picked on, and I want to look like everybody else. That's what's gonna get the job done. So I wanted to say that. What's your fuel is emotional fuel is the substance that is linked to your primary personality type that will increase your levels of satisfaction and performance. Okay? If we understand that different vehicles are used for different things, but we also understand that without fuel, the vehicle will not move. And given the wrong fuel, like my friend Tristan in Texas says, it will drive like crap, right? You need to understand that emotional fuel for yourself so that you increase your levels of satisfaction and performance, number one, for your team so that you can be quote unquote the only fuel station in town that has what they need so they stay with you engaging on your why as they are seeking their own why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And third, to your prospect so that you can nudge behavior in the right direction. The day that I discovered and I understood what my why was, what my emotional fuel was, I was able to have a better marriage because me and my husband, we are two birds of a feather that fought for the first 7 years because we were competing instead of adding value to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and understanding people allows you to anticipate behavior. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a superpower.
Yeah.
I can meet anybody and within less than 60 seconds, I know their primary personality type and I can anticipate behavior. And I also know what emotional language they speak so that I can talk to them in a way that they best receive my message. That's why I wrote that book. So on that book, we cover that book in we go into really the nuts and bolts of that book during my sales master's program because we talk about each one of those four personality types. We talk about what emotional fuel they need. We talk about the value of increasing your levels of satisfaction and performance for your own life, for your team, for your customers. And we see how that is applicable for every different phase of your restoration business, since this is a conversation about restoration. But it's so funny because my first book is based on four personality types that are matched with four dog breeds. And I have some clients of mine that their job file is last name, comma, first name, parenthesis, dog breed. And they all understand what that means with the customer so that they can prepare to talk to that customer in the language that will enhance their performance and the collaboration, right?
So
So,
wait a minute. What dog breed am I?
ah, isn't that the $1 million question? I know the answer, but let's talk about, I will give people their four and they will match with the dogs they know and how they behave, right? Saint Bernard, the rescuer, the one that wants to help everybody selflessly.
Mm-hmm.
Labrador, the ones that loves to have a million of friends and don't pay attention to any details. The one that feel like I just met you and I love you kind of person. German Shepherds, the ones on a mission, they have everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's very structured, right? Dobermans, the visionaries.
And I see that you are Ricelli the Doberman Mordecai. So, okay.
Mordecai,
I
yes.
like it. I think I'm a mutt. I guess I'm just a mix of, I probably got a little rat terrier in me too, a little annoying and
You're a mix of two. Yes, you are. Everybody is. Everybody
yeah,
has
yeah,
a primary and a secondary. But isn't that great that by knowing that right away, we can
yeah,
either get straight to the point or give tons of details, right?
sure.
Because people need those details.
Mhm.
Or say, you know what? It's a lot of information, but memorize my number. If you forget something, you just give me a call. I will take care of that.
Right, right.
That's
That's huge. Well,
yeah.
how do we get these books? I know they're both available on Amazon, right? Everybody, listen, go to Amazon, get her books. It's really important to understand. We'll see what dog you are, what your personality is like. You need to understand it because remember, everything you're doing is trying to put yourself in whoever's shoes that you're trying to get a response out of, right? So whether you're already, maybe you got a great system, you got the best company in the world, you still need to understand who your target client is, who your avatar is. You need to put yourself in Joe's shoes so Joe can see your business through his eyes, and then you could get them to do and take action with what they want. And it goes for personal B2B. It goes for your relationships that you're building. It goes for your website. Your website needs to know, your website needs to speak directly to those people, right? You can't be a box checker. I was just a guest on another podcast, The Restoration Domination, and we talked a lot about the box checkers. And the guy's like, oh, I know I need a website, so let me just put a website and I'll have somebody do it and it doesn't matter. But you have no idea, and maybe you do, how important it is to have that speak to who you're trying to get those jobs from. And it goes along the line with every single interpersonal relationship that you have, whether it's an employee or a client or a potential client or a referral lead source. So that's awesome. I hope you guys go on Amazon and check the books out. So we talked a little bit. One thing I want to go over real quick, because we're getting towards the end. Unfortunately, I think we could go on for like hours and hours, but I know you got a really busy schedule. Are you seeing any new trends out there that people need to be kind of paying attention to right now in relation to what you do?
Yes, I am. And I think that the biggest trend that I'm seeing is moving away from the box checkers and personalizing your message.
Okay.
There's a need for personalization, and people that are really going into the details of how they want to be perceived are the ones that are standing out in their marketplace, and they're the ones that are being seen as subject matter experts. And once people see you as a subject matter expert, they will pay what needs to be paid to work with you. I was talking to this a client of mine in Scotland, and he said the reason why I closed 9 out of 10 jobs, it's because my brand has been designed in a way that people are sometimes waiting 6 months to get some of the works done with me, because I was able to understand what my marketplace was doing wrong, and I used what I do personally, which is to deliver on my promises and add value in a way that it's personalized to that individual, and people are paying for it and they are waiting for that. And I remember that conversation, and I'm like, how can that be done in every marketplace across the world? And it starts with, how do I want to be perceived? What is natural for me? What are the real challenges of my marketplace? And instead of branding myself as, one of the biggest mistakes people make is when a prospect asks them, why should I go with you instead of with your competitor? And they start making a list of reasons instead of asking, I actually don't know if I'm the best suited for you. I would need to ask you questions to best understand what your struggles are before I can see whether or not I can help you.
Yeah.
By doing that, you will set yourself apart, and you will not be a restoration vomiter, as I like to call it, right? People ask, and you're like, ugh, ugh, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, what are the needs? Maybe I can help, but I'm not quite sure. Let's go through what you need first, and then we'll see how we can create a win-win here. I think that is the biggest trend, is people that are personalizing their services to the need of their customers.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny, our friend John Isaacson from Diojo mentioned something very similar when we were talking about things like that, and just having that vomiting up things versus listening to what the problems are and showing them how you can solve them. Because at the end of the day, they're going to make their decision based off of who's going to be the best fit for them if they're actually doing their due diligence correctly. So This has been really awesome. I mean, you have brought the heat today. The Brazilian Italian and you made it. I knew it was going to happen. And you mentioned before we got on that you've got a special deal that you want to offer to the listeners of this podcast. Listen, don't get your expectations up, Ricelli. There's probably only like one person that's going to listen to this. It might be my mom. I don't know. But if you are listening to this and you found value in what Ricelli was talking about, walk me through what you're offering right now to the listeners of the Restoration Rundown. And by the way, any clients of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, we have an even more special offer, which we'll talk about on another time. But for now, what do you got going on?
So we are giving an intro call for free. So we're giving 5 listeners an intro call of 15 minutes for no cost whatsoever. And that 15 minutes is strategically designed to, there's some prep that you have to do, and I give you value on those 15 minutes. Okay. And we're also doing 1-hour sessions for only $99. My fee is $275 per hour of consultation. We're doing it for $99 for the first 10 listeners that want to engage on this program. And it's going to be taking place in the month of July and August. So 5 in the month of July, 5 in the month of August.
Very cool. I can't believe it. That, guys, listen, $99 is nothing. You know, you're probably spending triple that on Starbucks in the morning to wake you up. So what Ricelli's offering is something that could probably turn your business around. If you've been struggling with anything that you've listened to today, and she is like me. She has a lot of knowledge. She's really great in the industry. People are flying her across the world to help them out. So she's offering a $99 1-hour consultation. You need to take them up on it. I might even take her up on that and take up one of the spots. So there's actually only 9 spots left for that. No, but thank you so much for coming on. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, walk us through, how do we get in touch with you? What's the best way to talk to you? Websites, social media, phone numbers? What do you got?
Best way to talk to me, to also see my reviews, is on LinkedIn. Ricelli Mordecai, RICELLI You'll be able to find me. You can also find my book on Amazon by either finding, searching for my name or searching for What's Your Fuel. And that is the best way to connect with me. My phone number is 904-517-9534. And I respond best to text messages than voice messages. So
yeah, I don't blame you there. Ricelli, thank you so much for taking your time out. I mean, you've got to be jet lagged. I know you just got in from Scotland. So this is really great. This was a great episode. I hope everybody out there got a lot of value out of this. Ricelli, I cannot thank you enough. We are going to have you on again. I'm sure I've been taking notes this entire time. And we have a lot of questions. I think that our viewers and our listeners could get a lot of value out of having you on. Definitely take advantage of her free 15-minute consultation for 5 people, and then the 10 hour-long consultations. That's huge, guys. That's a $275 consultation. Well worth the money. She's given for under $100. Ricelli, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Rundown. Until next time.